Hi all and welcome back to my channel. And yes, you are going to hear the ambient noise of a fan in the background because believe it or not, with my AC on, with it being November outside and the fan on, I am still somehow miraculously sweating. But I was in the zone, I was feeling it, I got myself all sorts of hype to film today. And I did this, I took the time, so we're gonna film. And today you're going to get another anti-haul, and as of filming this, my most recent belated anti-haul has gone up. So this one will probably go up in the next week and a half, 2 weeks, depending on how quickly I can get it edited. And with that being said, I have for you all a humongous amount of products to talk about. And usually when I do this, I'm all like, oh, well, I've reached this point. I don't care. I'm going to get through every single ding dang one of these if the video is going to be an hour long. It is going to get the same amount of views regardless. So at this point, we're just going to roll on through because I got so many things. This is like the roundup because at this point, I am so out of touch, out of sync with everything that is like the beauty community, especially in terms of like releases and everything else, because I haven't really been paying attention because I haven't had any money to purchase said makeup releases. So without further ado, going into this, if I talk about a product that you have purchased or that you are planning on purchasing, or that is your end-all be-all favorite holy grail, that is absolutely fan-tucking-fastic. You keep doing you, boo-boo. This is just me on my channel, giving my thoughts, giving my opinions, which are exactly that, an opinion, and not set in any sort of stone. You like what you like, I like what I like, and hopefully we'll both keep it pushing. And yes, before anyone comes for me down in the comments, I know, you can see, it's there, it's a wig, this isn't my real hair. After I'm done filming and I do TikTok videos, I'm literally ripping this shiz off and going to bed because I do night shift. I don't have time to make it nicey nice. But we might as well start off with the Makeup Revolution X Corpse Bride. Now, I don't know if any of you all know, or if you can tell by my spooky aesthetic attire, your girl is a Tim Burton fan. Although he is disgustingly problematic as a person, I absolutely adore his cinematography, his whateverness. Nightmare Before Christmas came out in 1993. I was 3 years old and it's been my shiz ever since then. Corpse Bride, not so much, which is kind of why this is like, yeah, you know, I feel like Nightmare Before Christmas is the stronger of the films, but do I enjoy Corpse Bride? Yes, you better believe I do. And looking at this, I feel like it's actually kind of funny. We're, at this point, Colourpop and Makeup Revolution are warring with each other with who can be the company that comes out with the most and comes out with the most just random crap. It's like they're trying to make up for some kind of makeup deficit that we didn't know we had, which quite honestly we've never had, because if there's anything that's been in this community, it's a makeup deficit. We've never had that. But Makeup Revolution would like you to believe otherwise, and such we released the Corpse Bride. I mean, it's not offensive at first glance. You got a crap ton of blues thrown up in there because blue is a thing, you know, we got some pinks. I don't see a lot of decisive whateverness going on in the curation of this palette, and they do themselves a disservice by making a big one and two little ones. So all the ground that they covered in the big one, they then put in the other little one with the blues, and then they got the other ones that's like the yellows and the oranges and the whatever going on there. I just kind of like the Nightmare Before Christmas one that they did last year. They're like, oh, that's so like fire. They made a realization within themselves that, hey, we don't actually have to pay attention to the quality. We just need to throw that Tim Burton licensing on it and people are gonna buy that shiz like hotcakes. All right, if we're gonna talk about, you know, putting licensing and everything like that onto things, we have the Urban Decay X Eternals, which is some sort of Marvel something that is very much out of my wheelhouse. And I mean, I wrote it down here, I was taking notes, it kind of says itself. I looked at this palette and I was like, oh, okay, all right. And I thought to myself, I would have bought that shiz 5, 6 years ago. And then I thought even further to myself, 5, 6 years ago, this shiz would have been a Vice palette. Because for those of us aged veterans who can recall the days past of the Vice palettes, does this not look like a Vice palette they would come out with, or that they've already come out with? This is probably a Vice palette that was sitting in the depths of the Urban Decay labs, and they unopened this, like, all these boxes and cartons. They're like, oh man, we didn't sell this. And they had to quick come up with some kind of idea, and they said, Marvel, you got something. We need just a little bit of something to put on this. They're like, yeah, sure, whatever, we'll do that. And this is what we got for the collaboration. A old, sad, tired looking, probably doesn't have a lot to do with the theme of the stuff, although I am not an expert in all things Marvel Eternals, but just looking at this, even as an outside viewer, not even taking into consideration the collection, it's kind of going the same way that the Game of Thrones situation did, where it was just kind of sad, in my personal opinion. I just dabbed my sponge on my nose to get rid of the sweat, and it just took all the foundation right off my nose. Love that for me. Alright, going on down. We've got Too Faced Forbidden Fruitcake. Insert dumb holiday-esque little mini palette. I mean, there is very little that Too Faced, I've said this I don't know how many times, it just gets truer every month to every year. There is very little that Too Faced could come out with eyeshadow palette territory that could make me care about them again as a company, because I just don't. I have no faith, I have no care, I have no consideration. I don't know if it's me moving on in my life, but with Too Faced as a company doing eyeshadow, it's just not my thing. They're not doing what I want formula-wise. They're not doing what I want aesthetic-wise. They're just coming back here every year, releasing the same stupid, awful, punny, forbidden fruitcake. I mean, for being forbidden, for being all kinds of sassy and edgy and whatever. It doesn't look very forbidden, does it? Doesn't look like something I'd be going on all kinds of adventures to behold the treasure of the forbidden fruitcake. It's just not happening. And then if we're going to talk about the forbidden fruitcake, we might as well talk about the Too Faced Christmas coffee, because I too think of this blue shade when I think of coffee. I drink coffee every day before my shift. I got my beautiful spiced maple something something oat milk amazingness. I know coffee, and I do not think blue when I think coffee. Maybe it's just me. Maybe there's some special, amazing, some kind of, I don't know, watch there be some kind of blue coffee bean. They're like, we don't know what you're talking. Inspiration from this rare, beautiful blue coffee bean. If that's the case, let me know down below. But I just like, it's like Christmas coffee and forbidden fruitcake and all these dumb little things that they do every single stinking year. I am so tired. Stay tuned. It'll probably already be a thing. Go sub to my podcast channel where I talk about why I hate the commercialization of just about everything. We're going to talk about holiday. We're going to talk about holiday. And this is a prime example of the straight commercialization of Christmas. It's not even about Christmas anymore. It's not even about anything like that. It's just about the dumb, stupid, Christmassy holiday things we can come up with that'll sell. That's it. That is all we care about. Okay, that got a little bit whatever. All right, here's one that I'm just throwing on here because it's just a little bit of a something something. I wouldn't actually buy it because I'm pretty sure they're not cruelty-free. This is Gucci, which I wouldn't buy from Gucci anyway because I have issues buying makeup from big established fashion houses. We've discussed this. We've discussed Valentino. We've discussed Dior. We've discussed Tom Ford. We've Saint Laurent. The whole shebang bang. And this is the Gucci Beauté de Eau Floral. I must admit, I took Spanish, not French. I'm not good at either. But looking at this, and you'll see the picture, say whatever you, the eyeshadow, it's just basic, standard, you know, fashion house makeup eyeshadow colors. This is what they have. I think when it comes to a lot of those companies like Yves Saint Laurent, we'll talk about Lancome later, kind of a bunch of those, although Lancome's not fashion. You know what I mean. I feel like by the industry they're like, okay, you have this board. This is what these companies are allowed to choose from. So make them work, people. You know, it's not offensive. It's not anything that's like, oh, how dare they put those colors together. But to me, as a person who looks like this. This is clearly not what I'm looking for. But I would like to draw y'all's attention to that beautiful, gorgeous, gorgeous, dark floral packaging. If they could have done something with that, and I don't know, entwined that into some kind of like 1990s runway aesthetic, because I've seen it. Gucci has done it. They have gone there. Not as hard as Yves Saint Laurent or anything like that, but they've gone there. They've done it. They've done the aesthetic and taken this beautiful floral packaging and made it something a bit more than basic fashion house eyeshadow palette. Okay, here's another one. There's so many ones on here that I had to talk about all of them. I'm like, I gotta get all my feels about this in one. It's gotta go in one take. And this is X Game Night. Now, we're not even gonna talk about Monopoly. We're not even gonna talk about the rest of the tragedy. We're just gonna do a little thing on the Ouija. Who did that? I understand. It's an aesthetic. It's a thing. I got little planchette necklace. I got all like whatever. But as much as I respect the aesthetic as a practicing witch, I cannot look at this and with like calm, sane of mind be like, that was a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea, because you can take and draw inspiration from it like Lunatic Labs. You know, they draw inspiration from it. They don't just take the board game, the whole thing, and they're like, we're going to make an eyeshadow palette. I mean, and all of that aside, they are absolutely disrespecting someone's ancestors. I don't know who somebody out there is getting disrespected and insulted by this color story. Who looked at this and said, like, if they were going to do it, and they were going to be like, all right, we're going to take this. We're going to make an aesthetically appealing, you know, take something, the way the KVD Shade and Light palette looked, throw it in this palette, throw that on it, I would have believed it for a minute. But when you take this, like, neutrals with this, like, poppy orange, and why? Why do makeup companies keep thinking that putting a dark blue eyeshadow in any color story makes it better? What about that enhances it in any sort of way? They're like, you know, this color story is looking a little sketchy. It sucks a little bit. Why don't we put a dark blue in it? Boom! Problem solved. I mean, there are just so many. Who greenlit it? What white person? Not to get like that, but what white person said, and they're like, yeah, put wigs in an eyeshadow palette. Ugh. I mean, come on. I mean, natural selection. I just have so many issues with it on so many, on you know, whatever levels, on color story levels. It's ugly. I mean, there's just so much wrong with this whole collection, but especially that little insert of it. I'm just like, can we not? I mean, do we already have enough issues with the 2020s going on here? Are we going into 2022 with a bunch of preteens summoning God only knows what with their Ouija eyeshadow palettes? Let's not do this. Okay, here's one that I don't think needs any sort of explanation. This is supposedly, we don't know what it is yet. This is Too Faced 2022. I hate it. That's all I'm gonna say. Just look, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Okay, then let's talk about an anti-haul item that is not because this is like an anti-haul item. I'm not going to tear it a new one. I'm actually like, ooh, this is cool. This is nifty. This is from Glamlight, which is their game night palettes, which I believe I said in my Why I Was Wrong About Glamlight video that I wanted to see more like small palettes from them, because I think that they've done really well in big palettes, and I was like, well, what should you do small palettes? I'd love to see them take that and make it smaller and curated. They did. I got my eyes on that green one, but looking at it, it skews really, really shimmer heavy, and as much as I am about adding more green into my collection, I'm more about adding matte than shimmer. So I'm looking at them and I'm anti-hauling them, not because I don't like them, not because I don't like the idea, but more because I don't need them. And quite honestly, there are other palettes from Glamlight that I'm going to be trying before these, but definitely let me know if you have them and what you think of the formula and the quality and if it's the same as their larger ones, because I've heard really good things about those. So let me know, because I've at least got my eye on them. The green one, you guys know. I looked at it at least 2, 3, maybe 4 times. All right. How about the Morphe X Jaclyn Hill round volume? I don't even know anymore. I mean, looking at this, basically what they did is they selected a couple different neutrals from her original big palette and kind of did a Tati Beauty, which doesn't exist anymore, where they were like, oh, here's this matte shade, and then here's the correlating shade, but in a shimmer. Because that ended up working out so well for Tati Beauty. I mean, it's just at this point, I just saw it, and I was like, oh, okay, it's another basic neutrally palette for a basic white girl. I mean, I too am a basic white girl, but Jaclyn Hill is very much a basic white girl, and that is the epitome of this palette. It's just 2 freaking rows of the same thing. Just one's matte, one's shimmer, and I'm gonna have some kind of Jaclyn stand down below. Well, this palette is the epitome of neutrality and efficientness in palette form. And maybe it is to somebody, and that's absolutely fantastic, like I say, but for me, it's definitely just, I mean, were they even trying? Was there any sort of like, ooh, this is going to be something that people haven't seen? I mean, we all know that at this point, it doesn't have to do with what people haven't seen. It's like what people haven't seen from a company, and even then, that's stretching it. It's just Morphe and Jaclyn out here trying to do their thing, trying to get their monthly, trying to hit that black or that red or whatever before the new year. That's all this is. And I mean, quite frankly, if I were in the position to be paid as much as Jaclyn is by Morphe, yeah, I'd be releasing palettes left and right. I'd be like, guys, I gotta pay my bills. Go buy this shiz, please, I beg of you. I got a mansion mortgage and 6 cars I need to pay off. Go get it. We have the Colourpop purple collection. I'm not gonna say anything too bad about this. It's a mauve, purpley, whatever palette. Maybe at some point I'd get it. I don't know. I did get the blushes. I will say that. It isn't anything offensive, but I mean, quite frankly, with a lot of stuff with Colourpop, it's not offensive. It's just boring. It's just tired. It's old. It's just done. Oh, let's see here. We have the Colourpop Play It Jewel. That did not feel good coming out of my mouth. It's a big Colourpop palette that kind of takes bits of the other big palettes they have, and then it has this like section of like slightly, see, I have so many issues with Colourpops. I don't know who it is. The people who decide to name the palettes, and then the people who come up with the color stories of said name palettes. There's some sort of disconnect. They're not connecting. They're not making that connection. And so you've got this palette called Play It Jewel, and it's a big palette. It's one of their big ones. It's like 35 something, right? And 95% of that shiz is neutrals, right? You know, they're a little bit darker or something, whatever. And then they've got this like little, like 6, maybe 8 shades if we're pushing it of like kind of potential jewelry tones. We've got like a bluey, and we got like a green, and we got like a deep rosy one. And I'm just like, play it jewel, play it jewel. That's the thesis of your palette and what you're giving me. If this were an English paper. This eyeshadow palette were an English paper, it would be flunked. Because you got this whole Play It Jewel idea, and then you give me just, it's the same thing with the, what was it, that flower supernova or something like that. And it had this bright, amazing aesthetic packaging, and on the inside it was just this, unlike Colourpop, maybe instead of making this big old giant honking palette with all these neutrals that you've already done, that you already have, and apparently you have an excess of, which is why you keep making eyeshadow palettes with them, because you can't get rid of them fast enough. Take that time, take time, and make a smaller palette, not like you've been making all these other smaller palettes, and take those jewel tones that you have in this big palette, take those out, and maybe expand on that theme instead of thinking you can get away with making a big old giant palette with all the same colors you have before. Play jewel on it, and then put these little slightly kind of partially jewel tones in it in this little teeny tiny section where literally you cover that up and you're like, oh yeah, it's the exact same thing you've been shilling to us. It's like, it's not so much a pop of color, it's a pop of color section now. We've moved on from the single pop of color, and now we're giving whole sections. Colourpop, giving a new meaning to the term pop of color. All right, we got to talk about one. We got to talk about one that kind of hurts me, because in my inner heart, I would want this. I know there's no reason I need to have it. Even more of that, I know there's no reason for me to have it because I'm probably not going to use it. We might as well. Patrick, whose blushes, whose lip whatevers, favorite end-all be-all formulas, all sorts of that. And he decided he was going to drop a blush palette. And the first moment I saw this, it was just like time stopped for a moment, for a millisecond, right? Everything just froze. And then I realized and I saw that it was 3 powders and 3 creams. Not only that, it's 3 powders and then it's 3 creams of essentially the same color. I understand the reasoning behind that sort of lineup in a blush palette. I also understand that for the price this is probably going to be, I don't even know if it's out yet, I don't even know how much it's going to be. It's going to be a lot of money because his stuff is fairly expensive, pricey, and as much as I would love to have those powder blushes caressed across my alternative cheeks, I know for a fact the price that I'd be paying for those 3 powder blushes does not denote the waste that's going to be had with those cream ones. Y'all know I have my Natasha Denona cream ones, which I've used a lot, but I don't know if I've used really enough to justify the amount of retail and how much money I've sunk into Natasha Denona cream products. Which reminds me, I should probably start, now that I'm doing YouTube videos again, I should probably start another Shop My Stash, whether it's monthly or bi-monthly. Probably bi-monthly. But look at this, I was just like, you know, if it was a 6-pan powder blush palette, you know, that would be a blush palette that I don't need, with face products in it that I maybe won't use in my, in my hot little hands, I would have that shiz. And so maybe we should take a moment and be grateful for the fact that it does have 3 creams in it, and because of that, my wallet is probably, you know, 50, 60, maybe even $70 lighter. I mean, more thankful, heavier because of that. I mean, and I don't need any more, I don't even need any more makeup. I got makeup. I need to finish doing my declutter. I got makeup in this bin that doesn't fit into my 4 drawers over there. I'm like, you need to calm down. But I saw it, and for a moment, for a brief moment, I experienced paradise. And then I realized that it was 3 creams with 3 powders, and paradise was gone. Another kind of, just the Natasha Denona mini Metropolis. I mean, y'all know, I saw this, you know, I gave it a second look, I gave it a glance, we're scrolling through, and it was a, you know, we looked at it once, we looked at it twice, then we realized it was an overpriced Natasha Denona mini palette that's got a single green in that's masquerading like it's the new green eyeshadow palette on the market. I mean, you got one, Natasha, you got one green. Give me a $65 palette in all green and I'll buy it from you and call it a green palette. I mean, and the promo pictures have the audacity of using this like green, sparkler whatever effect, like it's one green, it's a neutrals with a green with one. It's like the whole gimmick of this eyeshadow palette. It's not even pretending. It's just like the whole aesthetic of this eyeshadow palette is pop of color. That's all it is. You're just like, oh, F me up, look at that green. When it's just a single green amidst a bunch of other neutrally whatevers, but being marketed like it's God's gift to green eyeshadow. I mean, I feel like with a lot of these companies, they don't even have to. They don't even gotta play themselves. They're just putting out their products, you know, without the irony, and then the irony just creates itself. It's just, it's one green, Save y'all's selves, whatever. I'm sure, unless you have no green eyeshadow in your collection, somebody's gotta have something this way. Go get you a single, go get you a pan. Give me glow. Big old pan of green eyeshadow, and that'll be the green eyeshadow to F up all green eyeshadows. But not this, like, $28, $32 5-pan eyeshadow palette with one green eyeshadow. Thank you, Natasha Denona. I don't think so. Okay, let's talk about something else. The Huda Beauty Rose Quartz eyeshadow. I hate it. I hate it. As someone who loves crystals, I hate it. As someone who had a brief, though very tempestuous moment with Huda Beauty, where I reviewed and love a lot of shiz she came out with, I hate it. I look at this and I'm like, okay. Alright, it is the absolute pasty, washed out version of one of her other palettes. Long gone are the days when Huda Beauty created beautiful, decadent palettes. Long gone are the days of the Rose Gold Remastered and, dare I say it, the Desert Dusk. I feel like we hit that Mercury Retrograde or that Mercury whatever palette, and ever since then it's just been, woo! We have gone to Pastyville. And that's it. We ain't coming back. The whole eyeshadow palette be one big giant setting shade with maybe a little bit something crease and throw a shimmer on top of that shiz. I hate it. I mean, I am all about the gemstone aesthetic. You all know this shiz. I love it. It's my shiz. And like rose quartz. Alright, I got a whole bunch of rose quartz. Give me just one moment. I had to go borrow this off of Freya's altar. I got the rose quartz. I'm very familiar with this. And as much as I love rose quartz, I gotta admit, in terms of like color theory, it's a pasty baby. I'm sorry, I love you, but that's just how it be. And kind of taking a like leaf out of Too Faced books, we're kind of like, all right, we're gonna start off with something real light, real transparent like, and then we're gonna take inspiration off of that and create a whole eyeshadow palette. I mean, if she'd taken this shiz and been like, all right, I'm gonna pull from this pasty zone a deep, decadent, rosy theory, I would have been a whole heck of a lot less mad than this sad, pathetic thing she got here. I mean, when they like had the paste and then they showed it and then they had like all of the eyeshadow palettes done side by side, I think, like 1, 2, 3, 4. And I looked at that shiz and I was like, you know they turned the saturation up on that shiz real quick. I understand promo pictures versus the real thing is, I mean, it's never gonna be all whatever, but like, look at that. I was like, did we pull like a beauty blender moment here? Was it looking one way and people were being all upset about it? I don't know if anyone was butthurt about it other than me. But did something happen and they decided they gotta bump up the saturation on that shiz? Because, Jesus take the wheel, there was nothing saving that palette besides bumping up this. It just looks sad. It looks pale. I mean, like I said, this whole palette is a pasty setting shade with like a little bit of something to throw in the crease, and that's it. Hey, and maybe that's what you all like. If you all like pasty with a little something in the crease, that's fine. You do you. Clearly, I am not a fan of the subtle. I like to be shabim bam in your face. But I was just like rose quartz, and it's all the pretty packaging and all the pretty wood. You look in the palette and it's just like, it's not giving anybody any kind of good vibes. Morphe X Disney, I mean, I feel like this is kind of freakishly self-explanatory. I mean, Morphe and their collabs, I didn't like Morphe to be, I tried. I gave them a run. I bought 35 palettes from them before they decided to. I bought the Jaclyn Hill palette. I bought that shiz on like the second launch. Yeah, I bought the James Charles palette. I gave them a run. I tried. It was kind of like me trying to get into Naruto. I tried. I bought like 15 of the manga. Did not work out for me. So essentially Morphe is like the Naruto of makeup companies for me. Kind of okay with that for me. But it's just like, oh, here's this little like white and then like a little just doodly drawing and then we're gonna put neon colors in it. I mean, it just looks like a rehashed version. This is what Morphe does. It takes palettes that, I'm sorry, there's hair somewhere. There it is. Is that it? Did I get it? Morphe likes taking palettes that it's already created, rehashing them, and putting a new theme to it. I mean, this kind of looks like that one that they did in collaboration with that one young lady, because that's not vague at all. But no, it just looks like another iteration of the same kind of like bright, colorful palette they've done before, if I can remember. I hope I do. I will leave picture of the palette I think it looks similar to, and I understand that we've seen it all, that there's not going to be a lot done that we haven't already seen that's not going to be interesting. But when you keep seeing it from the same companies, this is my issue with Colourpop, when they it's one thing for other brands to dupe each other out, you know, that you're like, okay, that's going to happen. Everyone's going to have the same kind of color stories, you know, but when the own company is continuously duping itself out on products it keeps releasing, I'm just like, you need to stop. You need to stop. You need to step away, and Disney, just stop. I don't want to see no Coca-Cola. I don't want to see no Disney. We got the Lancome Heart Palette for the second year in a row. Dare I say, I admit it is subject to personal opinion and preference. I think this year's Heart Palette is probably uglier than last year's Heart Palette. And last year's Heart Palette was pretty lame. It's just, once again, I feel like with a lot of like the high end, I mean, I understand Lancome comes out with some banging shiz. There was a part of me that died inside because I could not partake of the ever-loving holiness that was that highlighter formula that they came out with that everybody lost their absolute shiz over. And it was like, I don't know, it was an expensive highlighter. I'm one to talk. I've paid lots of money for an expensive highlighter, but I was just, everyone was like, it's amazing, it's glorious, and I'm like, I would love to have a little bit of that, but they're not cruelty free. And it took everything I had. But highlighter aside, I feel like I mean, does this look like the peak of, I don't know, artistry? It just looks cheap. It looks gimmicky for a brand that charges as much as they do. I honestly expect a bit more in presentation and a bit more in being in the now. This looks a little bit early 2000s and not in a good way. Okay, we have, if I tell you, my eyes, they rolled right out of my head. I had to go over and I had to pick them up and put them back in. The Tartelette Full Bloom. Now we have the basicness of 3 Tarte palettes rolled into one giant oversized Tarte palette. If we're talking about beating a dead horse, I mean, this is like Too-Faced Urban Decay levels of like Vice palette chocolate bar, you know. It's just, in having this for people, I'm going to ask the people who have purchased Tarte palettes. I have purchased Tarte palettes. I have Tarte palettes over there that I have to film and to declutter to prove that I've decluttered my Tarte palettes. Looking at this, are you going to get anything new from purchasing this palette? And I'm going to have people down below be like, well, what about people who haven't purchased a Tarte palette? Okay, so we're going to get a subpar, larger palette. That's the larger version, but not really, because it doesn't actually bring anything different compared to the other Tarte palettes we've already released. It's going to be not as well produced. It's going to be this thing we've done for holiday. It's like the Tartelette. It's just, I mean, this is the excessive level of redundancy we have reached within the market, that we're making bigger palettes. It's so many different levels of like Lime Crime Venus XL to like, I mean, it's like if Urban Decay were like, all right, we're going to make Vice palettes. We're going to make them 2 layers, two layers. We're going to go all Lorac Mega Pro on us. I mean, I admit that would be a little bit more interesting than the majority of the crap that they're releasing recently, but that's beside the point. It's just another incarnation of the exact same thing. I understand, Tarte, that you have your brand, you've got your mojo, you've got your whatever thing that you're doing, but maybe do something a little bit different. Bring back Rainforest of the whatever. I admit we were pretty tired of Rainforest of the Sea, but maybe Rainforest of something else. Then the next one we have, it's an anti-haul, not because it's a terrible product, it's an anti-haul because it serves absolutely no purpose in my collection. That is the Natasha Denona Glam Face and Eye. I saw Karen Harris do a very beautiful look with it. I will leave her video linked down below. I love that for her, but for me, in my collection, I've already done this shiz twice. I bought the Tarte Face Clay Face Shaping Palette, Volume 1 and Volume 2. I've decluttered both of them. This has cream products in with powder products. There are just so many reasons why this is not going to be a thing in my collection. But hey, if this is your shiz, it's also like with me, it's like, when it comes to me and taking makeup, I never take the minimum. I never go, well, I'm going to take this palette and that's, no. We got 3 face palettes, we got 5 eyeshadow palettes, we got 10 highlighters, we got 8 blushes, we've got a blush and a highlighter that I've never used in the past year, but God knows I will use both of them on this trip that I am going on for like 3 days. So this sort of thing, I'm sure it'll be great. I love Natasha Denona when she does it right. Heard good things. Let me know if you have it. And then we have the I Heart Revolution plus e.l.f. I shiz you not, I was scrolling through the trend moods and I saw just the pastel-y, Christmassy blah, blah thing going on that is the e.l.f. aesthetic, and I thought it was Too Faced. I honestly had a moment of like, have they made the self-realization that this is where they're at? This is the kind of thing that they are. This is what we know them for. And they've come to that. They've realized it and they said, we might as well nip this shiz in the bud and we'll collaborate with e.l.f. I honestly would have had so much more respect for them. Been like Too Faced plus e.l.f. and I would have been like, on the money. Like, that would have been like so on brand, so perfect, so self-aware without even being self-aware. But I saw that it was another crazy collaboration for Makeup Revolution. I mean, they've got, it's I Heart Revolution, there's Make Heart Revolution. I mean, they have like 3 different sub-brands to do all different collaborations with. There's just so much going on with them. But I legit was like, Too Faced! Ah! Oh, it's there. I expected to click on it and being like, Holiday, Tinseltown, Bunny Wunny, Cupcake, Snow Cone, Extravaganza! I feel like Too Faced is like a drag queen that hasn't found themselves yet. They haven't honed into who they are as a performer yet. They're just kind of out here, and this was an example of it because it's not even them. Then Ariana Grande with her fair, usually barely there face, winged eyeliner, sun-kissed glow is bringing us makeup. Okay, and not only is she bringing us makeup, she's bringing us this. This. Did anyone else in like the 30, 35 range look at this and think the 2000s want their makeup back? Because if this shiz don't look like 2000s makeup, just. And then the colors, she decided, like, I thought that purple eyeshadow, I thought that was like a color correcting powder. I was like, okay, there's no way she's number one, bringing out single eyeshadows, which in my opinion are such a dead thing with the insurgence of single eyeshadows out of pans, all the eyeshadows we have, you know, how much, you know, the price point of single eyeshadows. I just think there's something that's kind of dead within the market. I'm not interested in them. If I'm gonna get singles, you know I'm gonna get without the pan. Less waste, less expensive. And so to come out with single eyeshadows seems a wee little bit outdated, and then just the look of it. Like, I know it's kind of like supposed to be teeny tweeny, kind of like that Florence Wells, the Stranger Things young lady who did that kind of like very youthful, very young, kind of like healthy skin based makeup, whatever that she came out with. I think it's like trying to gear that, but it just, I mean, I look at that, maybe it'll be the next best thing, I don't know, but I look at this and I see sale section. And then we might as well end on a note, I guess, the Colourpop of Quartz. I hate it. Alright, all y'all, we have actually made it through every single stinking one of these. God only knows how long this is gonna be. If you have made it this far, God bless. You get a gold star, sending you good energy and good vibes because quite frankly, you deserve it after going through all of that. I would love to hear y'all's thoughts and opinions on all of these products. You love them, you hate them, you're planning on buying them, you've anti-hauled them, you've decluttered them. Let us know down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you, and as always, keep it real. Mwah!